What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you the most powerful real estate AI chatbot that you've ever seen, and I'm going to be showing you how you can build it. Here's a demo. So here I've deployed it to zillow.com. So if you're aware, this is one of the most popular real estate websites. So here's the chatbot. I'll click on the chat bubble, start a new chat. Greetings, I'm Zawadi, your friendly AI property assistant. How can I assist you today? So let's say I want a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. So there you have it. You can see it gives me back some property. Okay, 2 of them. So let's say I want to view this one. I can click view on Zillow, and I can see the actual property on Zillow, and I can go ahead and make an offer. But going back here, you can see it asks me, would you like to learn more about this property? Let's say I still want to see the house tour video. Okay, so I can click on that, opens up the video, and you can see the video is over here. I can go ahead and view the video directly through the chatbot, so you can see it here. You can also view the property on Google Maps. You can see the property there. You can view it on a larger map. So when you click on that, and you can see the actual property there, as you can see, even the address matches the exact property that we've clicked on. If I go back here, you can see it matches that. And let's say I also want to just learn more about the property, so I can click, would you like to learn more? Yes. And I can ask it some questions. So let's say, what's the property tax rate? Tells me that's 0.81%. Let's say, if I were to rent it out, how much do you think I can charge for it? You see there, based on the information, the estimated rent for the property is $5,019 per month. So let's say it was built in 2018. Let's say I want to ask, are there any schools around there? Yes, there are schools in the area. The closest elementary school is Redland Elementary School, which is approximately 0.9 miles away. So let's say I'm ready to purchase. How do I proceed with making the purchase? So let's say that's my email, my phone number, and you can see if you go to Airtable, where this is being stored at, here you can see the record has been added, Alex Mutua, and the email, the phone number, and the specific property they're interested in. So let's say we want to sell a property. I want to sell my home. Can definitely help you get the best price for your property. What is the address of the property? Let's say something like that. What price? Let's say, okay, that's an amazing price. You have no problem finding a buyer. And what's your timeline? Let's say 3 months. So the timeline I would want to sell the home in. Thanks for the information. Can you provide your name? Let's use the same Alex. Phone number, something like that. And awesome, a member of our team will be in touch with you in a few. Can I assist you with anything else? No, I think I'm good. Great, if you need any further assistance, I'm here for you. Then it ends the chat. And if you go back to Airtable, in the sellers table, you see Alex Mutu is there, the address, and the price they wanted to charge the property, and the property timeline. Okay, so you see that the Airtable acts as a CRM, because in an actual case we'll be saving this to an actual CRM. So question is, how do you build this for yourself? Let me show you. So for the data itself, you can see I have an Airtable database containing all the properties and the required details. So you can see here the city, the state, the home status, all that, the address, and any information we'll need for the chatbot. I got this information from Bright Data. So if you want to follow along, just go to brightdata.com. If you don't have an account, go ahead and sign up with Google and create an account. Then you can go ahead and start. After creating your account, just click user dashboard. Then you'll arrive at your dashboard. What you want to do is go here and where you see web data, click on that. Then search Zillow property listing information, click on the first one. Then you'll have a CSV data containing the property details. Then what you want to do is filter, click on filter. Then the only filter I want is to have all the records having a link to the YouTube tour video. So the video that you saw when I was clicking view house tour video, there's a YouTube video that was popping up. So that's the only filter I want. So filter where virtual tour URL includes youtube.boo, like that. So just that, then create subset. Then you go ahead and click download the sample. Then once it downloads, what you want to do is import the CSV file into your Airtable database. So you go to airtable.com, then click on quickly upload CSV file from local files, browse files. Then you'll go ahead and import it from your downloads, whatever you had downloaded. Okay, so on importing that, some pop-up will appear like this. So just cancel it, and you'll scroll down here, you'll see a button to upload and import all the information. So once you've done that, you'll go ahead and you'll have your database. Okay, so me, I already have it here, so we'll get right into the build. So here in VoiceFlow, we start by just sending a text message informing the user we are, hello there, I'm Zawadi, your friendly AI property assistant. How may I help you today? Then I generated 3 variations of that, then saved that. Then next I just go into listening for the intent. Okay, so what this is just a choice step. So if you go to listen, you'll just drag a choice block over there, and this, what it does is just to be able to classify the intention in the user's response. We have 2 intentions that we have built into the VoiceFlow chatbot. One is buying the property, and the next one is selling the property. So if it notices that the user wants to buy a property, it goes to this workflow. So first, before we go into the buying property workflow, you might be asking how we come up with the intents. So let's go back here to the intents. You'll see we have the yes or no intent, then we add the buy property intent and sell property intent. Okay, so on your side, you'll go ahead and click new intent, then give it a name, let's say buy property, then give it a description. This doesn't really matter until you're using the LLM intent description, but in this case we are using NLU, and I'll show you that to you. So if you go here to settings, you can either choose NLU or LLM. LLM is more accurate in determining the intent in the user's response, but NLU is cheaper since it's free. LLM consumes tokens. Okay, so buy property, so you'll give it some utterances. Okay, so if the user says this statement, means they want to buy a property. Give it several examples. I've given it some examples, and you can pause and look at some of the examples. Then you'll go ahead and create the intent. Okay, so same case to selling the property. Give it some utterances that show this is to sell the property. I need to sell my property, looking to sell my house. All these are statements the user might ask if they want to sell their property. Then once you add all those utterances, you can have the AI generate some more. So generate 5 or 10 sample phrases. Then once you see this bar is fully green, means it's confident enough, then you can proceed and click create new intent. Okay, so with that being said, I'll go back to the workflow. So here it starts with a set AI step, and the set AI step is to determine whether the user's response contains enough details on the kind of property they're looking for. Okay, so if they say I just want to buy a house, they haven't provided any details. But if they say something like I want to buy a house, a 3-bedroom house in Vancouver that has 3 bathrooms, something like that, that's enough details. Okay, so we want to classify that response. So here's the prompt, here's the conversation history, then provide the variable VF memory. This is a default variable in VoiceFlow. So the user wants to buy a property. Your work is to determine if they have provided enough details on the property they want to purchase. Correctness is a life or death situation. This is a trick you can be using in your prompt to ensure the AI is more careful to get everything right. If they've provided enough details, return all details. If they've only provided the location of the property, return location only. And if they've provided no details at all on the property they're looking to purchase, return no details. Okay, here are some examples. So this is multi-shot prompting, where you give a number of examples of how you want the AI to behave. So you have the user and what the assistant will give back. So if the user says I want to buy a house in Northampton, PA, 3 bedrooms, 4 baths and 5 budget, and my budget is up to 800,000, the AI will return the word all details. So go ahead and I won't read all of them. There are a couple of examples. You can pause and look at it. But also I'll provide the template to this specific project. A link will be in the description, so go ahead and access that. So this is cautioning. So note, if the user states the number of bedrooms they want in their house as well as their location, consider that as them having provided all required details. Now take a deep breath and classify the conversation history. Then we provide the conversation history. So if then the user, VF memory, and what the assistant, which is the AI, will return. Then we save whatever the AI returns to a variable called is details. So you'll go ahead and create a new variable, give it a name. The next is an if statement that checks the variable is details. So if it is details contains no details, means the user hasn't provided enough details, follow that specific path. We add another condition if it's only the location, okay, and same case if it's all details, okay. So and finally you add a no match, so add a path here. So you'll see plus over here, so click on that, then you have a path for the else path, okay. So if no details have been provided, proceed to this block where you want to obtain the property details, okay. So we have this text message, kindly provide in detail the kind of property you want to buy. So once they provide that, so we'll capture their response, save it to the last utterance variable, and send them back to the buy property block for it to then be classified, okay. So once they return their response and give back enough details, when it returns to this block, it will follow the all details path, because now they have provided the enough details, okay. So if they've only provided the location, something like I want to buy a house in Buffalo, New York, you just want to follow this path, and in this path is a response AI step where we provide the conversation history, okay. Then in the prompt settings, you can see here, you're a friendly and enthusiastic property assistant. You've been provided with a conversation history. The user wants to buy a house in the location mentioned in the response. Respond to them showing how excited you are to help them find a house in the specified city, but mention that to help them find the perfect house, you'd require more details from them. Then give the following examples of the kind of response you expect from them. So give some examples there. Then provide the examples as provided above without changing anything. Then urge them to provide as much details as possible on the kind of property they want. Be as brief as possible and go straight to the point, okay. So is that you can bring down the temperature a bit to 0.4 and pick the AI model you want to work with. I'll just work with the basic 3.5 turbo, okay. So with that being said, you'll capture the user's response and forward them back to the buy property block, okay. And it's good practice to be naming your blocks, because you can see it's easy to jump around from block to block without having to drag this flow all the way over here. So it makes your workflow more neat. So if it goes to the else path over here, so it's not being able to classify it into either all details, no details, or location only, you just want to go ahead and obtain the property details, okay. So if all details have been gotten, so it will go to this flow where we generate an Airtable formula that will call the Airtable database and return properties that match the user's requirements. So here's the prompt, here's the conversation history we provided, generate an Airtable formula from it, okay, and save those details. So this is a set AI step, and save it to a variable Airtable formula, okay. You'll go ahead and create that on your side, and in the prompt settings, take down the temperature to 0, because you don't want it to use any creativity. The higher the temperature, this means you want the AI to use its creativity, but the lower the temperature means you want it to be factual and deterministic, okay. So you don't want it to be use its creativity here. So and in the system prompt, you're an Airtable formula generator. You convert user queries into Airtable formulas. If there are multiple queries, use the AND operator, and you can pause and read the entirety of it, but I'll just skim through it quickly. So these are the constraints. You're only to map valid fields into the Airtable formula. Here are the list of valid case sensitive fields. So you can see the city, give the kind of field it is. So you'll go to your Airtable and you can see here the city. If you click on it, it's a long text, so you'll state it as is and do it for all the fields that you'll be using in your Airtable formula, okay. So I have it there. Then these are the home types we support. So we want it when it's mapping the fields and the user says something like I want a single family home, this is what it will insert into the formula. If they say they want a townhouse, this is the exact text that will be inserted into the Airtable formula. Okay, so critical, your responses are always valid responses. Okay, so you want it not to doubt itself. Okay, so you need to contextualize what they want and provide a relevant and accurate Airtable query. You'll only to answer with the Airtable query. For example, I want a 3-bedroom 4-bath house in Lincoln City OR. The assistant will return the following formula. Okay, and I give it a couple of examples. So you want to give it a couple of examples. That's multi-shot prompting. Okay, then this is an example of a conversation. Then now take a deep breath. Here's the conversation history. Come up with the Airtable formula. So user, then the VF memory, that's a conversation history, and what the assistant will return. Okay, and this is just what you can see patterns here. So the AI in the prompt is seeing that when you say user, what the user asks, then it will return the following formula. Again, it says the next example is a similar structure, same thing to the next example. Then finally we do the same thing so that it knows. Now when you say this user, it means this is what the user asked for. Then this in this place is now it will return the exact Airtable formula. Okay, so once that's in place, it will go to a block where it's making the API call to Airtable database. So if you go to that, here in the API call, you'll get this URL. We're calling the properties table, and you get this URL when you go to your Airtable documentation. So let me show you. To go to the documentation, click on that, then you'll click on build a hub. So by the Airtable database is just an example of the kind of implementation we can do, because in actual sense we can be able to call the CRM of the specific real estate agency to be able to return the actual property details and all that. And when we get a customer who wants to buy a property, we save it to the CRM. So in this case, this Airtable database is emulating an actual CRM and a database containing the properties. Okay, so go ahead and click create new token and give it a name, doesn't matter whatever. Add all the scopes that you'll see over here. Once you add all that, you want to attach a base. So I'll click on real estate because that's the database I want to have the access to. So then you go ahead and click create token, but since I already have that, I won't do that. So but on your side, you'll create the token, then it will pop up showing the exact token. Copy it and save it somewhere because you'll need it. So cancel that. Then you go to developer docs, scroll down till you see web API docs, click on that. Then scroll till you see the bases here, so click on the database you want to access, real estate. And this one thing I really like about Airtable is they make their documentation very easy, and being able to work with it is very good. So then you click on the table you want to access. In this case it's the properties table. Then you'll scroll till you see list records, so click on that. Then you want to copy this exact URL till there, copy that, then go back here and paste it there. Okay, so you'll paste it there, then add a question mark, filter by formula, then you'll insert the Airtable formula we've just generated with the AI. So then in the headers, we pass in some authorization. Then you have your access token here. I've hidden mine, but on your side you ensure you paste in your specific access token. Okay, then in the parameters here, you want to put in the specific fields that you want to be returned from the Airtable database. If you see the properties, you can see here there are so many fields that can be returned from the Airtable database, but we don't really need to use all of them. So that's why in the parameters you want to return the exact fields you want. Okay, so you here in parameters, add fields, then square brackets. Ensure you have those square brackets, and otherwise it won't work. Then the specific name of that specific field. So here you have it as city. We need the state. We also need the price. We also need the specific HTTP URL. Then the virtual tour URL to display the YouTube video, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the address, the description, the image, home type, the ZP ID, and the price. Okay, so these are the details we'll need. Then here in capture response dot records. Okay, then save it to a variable called API response. So on your side, go ahead and create that. The next is a JavaScript that we'll use in order to display the carousel dynamically. Okay, so you remember once it gets back the properties that match the user's requirements, we display a carousel with the images and all those details and even the buttons for viewing the house tour video, Google Maps and all that. So first of all, create a variable. I know it looks complex and all. Let me just maximize this. So I know the low code, no code guys are like, oh, that's a lot of code, my guy. But it's actually easy. But also this will be available in the template, so don't worry. And I'm explaining how it works. So the variable, create it, let cards equal to an array, an empty array. First of all, we want to loop through the API response. So for each record that's been returned from the database, we want to loop through it. So for each record, first we want to format and get the address. So if you look at the address, we have it here as a JSON object, but this is actually a string. So we want to pass it first so that we can be able to access the actual details. Okay, then we want to obtain also the price. Okay, so that will be available in API response in the specific index that we are in the loop, then dot fields, then access the specific price. Then we want to format the price into a format that we can be able to display as our currency. Okay, then we go ahead and push to the specific array. So this is cards.push and pushing this specific object. Okay, so this object is actually the carousel cards itself, and each has a title, a description, an image URL, and some buttons. Okay, and how we're able to obtain this is just, let me give you a quick trick on how you can be able to render things dynamically. Okay, so I'll just scroll up here and show you how I come up with such code. So carousel, so we'll create a quick carousel, give it whatever link, image URL here, whatever title, whatever description, doesn't matter. Can give it some buttons. Add the next card. Add some buttons. Then once you have the carousel here, you want to do Control-Shift-I so that you can open the Inspect tab and go to the Networks tab. And here you want to ensure you filter. You'll find it empty, so you want to enter Interact. Okay, because we want to search the Interact endpoint in the requests that are being sent through. So then click Start the test from here. You see it displays the carousel. Then you want to go to this specific request that has a 200 status 200. You can see it here. So click on it. Then you'll go to Response tab over here. Then you want to minimize where you see state, minimize. Okay, so you can remain with the traces. So scroll down till you see the trace of type carousel over here. Then this is the payload that we want. So payload, you can minimize that, select that, open it up so you can copy it. Okay, so this is what we normally use to be able to display the dynamic carousel. So I'll close that now that I've copied the specific payload, and I can just use the custom action block. So drag this a custom action block there, and the name of the custom action is should match the name of the trace type. So in this case is carousel. Then in the action body I can paste in the specific payload. Then with this being said, I can just quickly just start the test from here, and you can see it's able to render the carousel that we have been able to get. And you can be asking now, how is this useful? It means that I didn't have to use the carousel block to be able to create the carousel itself. I can be able to now alter that specific payload to include the necessary details from the properties that I've called from the Airtable database. So that's how we're able to do that. So I'll just delete all this. So that specific payload I only came and added here. So you see here I say structured API response has the specific layout of the carousel, and if you saw in the payload, this is how it starts. So the layout of the carousel, then some cards, and in the specific cards we'll insert the variable that we've created up here. So we have the title, insert the specific address of the specific street address. Then in the description we want to have the price, okay, the bedrooms, okay, and the bathrooms, okay, so you can see it there. Then in the image URL, insert the URL of the image. Then here's the critical part, the actual buttons. So we have like 4 buttons. The first one is viewing on Zillow, so we pass in the name of the button, then the request of type view on Zillow. So this type of request should match the exact path we use in the custom action. So if I go down here to the custom action, you'll see that I have some paths, and I've created the paths: house tour, Google Maps, view on Zillow. This specific word is what I put in here in the request type of the button, so that when the person clicks on the button view on Zillow, it should follow the path of view on Zillow in the custom action. So that's why this request type should match the path name in the custom action block that follows this code, okay. So in the payload we pass in the specific property ID. This we'll use when the user is asking more questions on that specific property. The label, okay, so this is view on Zillow. Then the actions, so you have some actions. Ensure this is actions and not action. Don't miss that specific S or it won't work. Then the action is of type open URL, and the payload we pass in the actual URL, okay. In the next button is for the house tour, so the house tour video. The request type is house tour, which matches the name of the path in the custom action, as you can see here. Then we have in the payload we pass in the property ID the URL to the exact YouTube video and the label, okay. The next button is viewing on Google Maps. The request is type Google Maps, and you can see that matches the path in the custom action over here. Then the payload is passing the property ID, okay, there, and the label there, and also the maps address. This will use to display on Google Maps. And finally we have the learn more button. So learn more on this property, the request type is learn more, and you can see that matches the path in the custom action over here. Then we pass in the property ID and the label. So with that being said, once we've pushed this object into the card, specific card, we'll be able to add it into the actual payload that we'll insert in the custom action. So we add the cards over there. Then you want to ensure, so this is not necessary, I used it just for debugging purposes, but the critical part is this restructured API response. Go ahead and create this variable on your side. Then you want to stringify it, okay. So because the custom action block in the payload only accepts a string, so ensure you stringify the JSON. Then so that when you go to the custom action block here, as you remember, this is the custom action name which matches the trace type. Then in the action body insert that structured API response variable, okay. Then we have the paths created here, and we ensure you turn this on, stop on action, because by default the custom action block will display the carousels and automatically flow to the following flow, but we want it to stop once it's been able to display the properties in the carousel, so that it only proceeds once the user clicks on a specific button, either to view the house tour video, Google Maps, or all those. And also here, ensure when you click on this, use global listen. So you can see I've enabled global listening. What this does is, once you've continued and it's displayed the carousel itself, and the flow has continued in the chatbot, the user has asked a bit more of questions, they have the ability to go back to the carousel that was on top up there and still click on the button, and it will follow the flow as intended to, okay. If this is turned off and you disable global listening, once the carousel has been displayed and the user continues chatting with the chatbot, they can't go back and click on a button that was on the specific carousel. It won't work. So ensure you enable global listening, okay. So if they click on house tour, we'll go to this block called house tour. So I'll go there, and and it first just starts with the JavaScript step, which first obtains the specific property ID and saves it to a variable called property ID. This variable, I've already created it on my voice flow, so on your side ensure you create that. Then we want to restructure the URL, because to display the specific URL to embed it into the chatbot, it needs to be structured in a specific way. So you see, this is the kind of URL we are getting, but in order to display it as embed it into the chatbot, this is how it needs to be structured. Okay, so it needs to be youtube.com/embed/ the specific video ID. So this function does that, obtains the video ID by splitting the URL. So you can see it first splits it by the full stop, then we have this side and this side. Okay, then we obtain the second side. Okay, so that's why I obtain the index of 1, because when you split it over here, it will return an array of these two parts. Okay, these two parts. I'm trying to make it easy for the low code builders to be able to understand. So it will return an array of these two parts, and we want to access this second part. Okay, so to access the second part, that's index 1, and this first part is index 0. Okay, so once you access the second part, we want to split it by the slash. Okay, so once we have this second part, we want to split it by the slash, so that we'll have two parts, the B and the actual video ID. So to obtain the video ID, we access the index of 1, so that's the second part. To access this B, it will be index 0, but since we don't want that, we want this video ID, we'll access index 1. Okay, then we restructure the URL this way, so the youtube.com/embed and insert that specific video ID. Okay, so with that being said, we'll return the new URL and save it to a variable we've created on our voice flow called tour URL. Okay, so with that being said, and you see we are passing in the exact tour URL from the payload. And if you remember, if you go back to the JavaScript code initially, we pass in the payload the exact tour URL. Okay, so then this is a text block that we insert an iframe. So how I get this iframe is, you can open any YouTube video. For example, this video by Liam Otley, I can just right click on it and copy embed code. Okay, so this will give you the iframe. Then you'll go back to your text block over here. So let's say I had a text block here, and paste in that specific embed code. Okay, so here is where you'll insert the specific URL that we've created. So you'll minus that, then two curly braces, and enter the tour URL that we have created. Have it there. We don't really need the title here, so you can delete all that. Okay, so that we can remain with this. Okay, so that's what we are doing over here. So but what I also alter is ensuring that the height here and the width is 100%. Okay, so that it can just fit exactly into the chatbot. If you want it to be bigger, you can be able to alter the height and width dimensions as you want. So then we have a text step of if they would want to learn more about the property. Then we have some buttons. Okay, so for either yes or no, then we attach the intent of yes and the intent of no. So if they don't click the button yes or no, but they actually just say the word yes, and they actually type it in, the AI will be able to detect that they've just clicked on the button yes. Okay, so if they click yes, it will go to the block of learn more on the property. Okay, and the block is here, but I'll come into this later. So first, let's go through the other buttons. So here on the other buttons, so for the one for displaying on Google Maps, it will take you to the block called display on Google Maps. Then it first starts by obtaining the maps address, which we pass in the payload, as you can see there, and also the property ID. Okay, so if you can remember in the JavaScript, then we want to convert the address into a string that can be passed into the Google Maps API. Okay, so for that, we just pass in the maps address into the prompt. Then the critical part is we're just applying it, the variable that will be generated, back to the same variable maps address. So we're just altering the specific variable to suit our case. So in the prompt settings, that's where we're doing all the magic, and ensure the temperature is down to 0, because we want it to be deterministic and not to use its creativity. Then in the system prompt, return address without the brackets and quotes, just list city name, state name, and address zip. If you remember, in the actual Airtable database, you see this is how an address is structured. Okay, so we want to return it without all this JSON brackets and all those nonsense. Okay, so we'll come back here, we give it an example input, okay, and the example output it will return. So to return just the address. So we give it a final example and it's ready to go. Okay, so you can actually even preview it. So I'll copy this and do a preview. So I'll enter the maps address there, then generate, and you can see it returns just that address. So this is what we want. Then with that being said, we make an API call to Google Maps API. For this, what you want to do is go here, search Google Cloud API. So you'll click on Google Cloud APIs, the first link you see there, then view API manager. So you'll come here and ensure that you're logged into your actual Google account over here. So click library. Then what you want to do is search for places API. Click on places API new, click on that, and ensure you click the button enable. Okay, so I've already enabled this API, so I can go ahead to the documentation. So if I go to the documentation here, click on documentation. Okay, so I want to scroll till I see places API new here, click on that, overview over there. Okay, then I can scroll till I see text search new. That's what I want. So you'll scroll till here till you see this URL. So this is the URL you'll call, so copy that. Okay, go back to voice flow, and in your API step you paste it in here. Ensure this is a post request. Okay, then in the headers we'll pass in some things. Okay, so as you can see here, the headers takes in a content type, so you'll copy that. Okay, go back to your voice flow, paste it in there. Application/JSON. Okay, you'll paste it in there accordingly. Go back here, you see also it takes in one called X Google API key. Copy that, paste it in here. I'll cover my API key so you can't see that, but on your side you'll go and get in your API keys to Google Cloud. Ensure you click on that. Okay, so it will take you here, and just quickly search here API, then you'll see credentials. Click on that. So you can go ahead and create new credentials, but already have one, and it will, I think, ask you to create a project for that. So you'll go through the steps. Once you get your API key, you'll copy that and paste it back into your voice flow over here. Okay, then the final parameter we need to pass is X Google Map, X Google Field Mask. Then just pass in places.id. This we get it here, so you can see it here, X Google Field Mask, and these are the ones that it passes in, but we don't need all this. Only thing that we need to be returned is the place ID. Okay, so that's why we put it there. Okay, then in the body, pass in a raw JSON, which will include, you go back here, you can see it in the body tag. You can see, just copy this as is, go paste it in here. Okay, then instead of whatever has been put, replace that with the maps address. Okay, then page size 1, just to ensure it's only returning one place. Okay, so for that then we'll obtain the actual place ID. So response.places access the first place.id. Okay, which in reality is just returning one place, and we just want to access that specific place because it returns an array. Okay, so once that's in place, save it to a variable called place ID. On your side, you go ahead and create that. Then we go on. So to embed the Google Maps into the chatbot, what you want to do is open a new tab here, search Maps, embed API, click on that first link, then scroll down till you see this iframe. Ensure you copy that. So copy it as is, go back to your voice flow. Then you'll have a text block. Okay, so I'll just have a text block here, paste in the specific iframe. Then this is what we want to edit. So what you'll do is you want to copy this, the entirety of this, okay, as is, remove that, open a new tab. Okay, then we want to edit it out. Okay, so here where there's API key, just you'll replace it with your actual API key. So for that I'll just put in some gibberish. Then here end queue, what we want to do is, so here you'll close it up with some quotes over here. Also ensure there's quotes at the beginning here, because we'll insert it into a variable. So then do plus over there, then open another string over there. So end queue, where the place ID, place underscore ID, close the quotes, then plus, then you pass in the place ID that we had created. Okay, so that's how you want to edit it out. Then what you do is copy all this, then go back to your voice flow. Just before your text block over here, add and set AI step. So not set AI, set variable. Okay, so click on that. You'll create your variable. I called mine maps URL. Okay, so maps URL, and set it to that specific variable URL that you have created. And on your side, ensure here this gibberish that I've added, you'll paste in your API key. Okay, with that being said, you'll insert here, open the text block, and here where it was source, you'll paste in the actual variable. So just maps, can I actually type maps URL? Okay, so with that being said, this should work. Okay, so I'll delete that and go back to the flow. Then from there we'll move on to the actual statement that asks them if they would want to learn more about the property. Okay, so that being said, it will pass in some buttons, so you either click yes or no. So if they click yes, it will go to the learn more on the property block. If they click no, to go to this block which asks if is there anything else I can help you with. If they say yes, tells them to sure, go ahead. Then it passes whatever they ask to the intent classifier at the very beginning of this flow, which will classify the message in whether they want to sell, buy a property, or they're just asking a general question. Okay, so if no, let me just show you the intent classifier so that you can be able to whip. So we're on the same page. So the intent classifier is here. So buy property, sell property, or a no match. If it's a no match, they will have the AI give a response. So using a response AI block, then it goes on to this. Okay, anyways, you will reach this part, so don't worry. So next is viewing on Zillow. So if they click view on Zillow, we'll go to this JavaScript step where we just obtain the property ID and save it accordingly. Then we ask them if they would want to learn more about the property. If they click yes, we go to the learn more on property block, okay, which I'll show you. If they say no, it just end the chat. If they click no match, if they actually just type in something and they don't click either of the buttons, you'll go here and ask them, sorry, I didn't get that, kindly repeat. Then we immediately pass them into an intent classifier, which is just a choice block over here that we add in the specific intents. So buy property, sell property, and a path for if there's no match identified. So if they just ask a general question, if they say buy property, we take them to the buy property block. So if they click sell property, we want to send them actions. Go to intent, then select the intent you want to go to, which is sell property. Okay, so that being said, and if it's a no match, just have the AI give a response. So this is a response AI step, you get it over here. Then passing the specific question and some instructions. So use the information in the knowledge base as well as the conversation history below to provide a relevant answer to the user's query. Then we pass in the conversation history. Okay, it's a simple block. We don't have a knowledge base at the moment, so for working with specific companies, they'll have frequently asked questions and respective answers, and any data they have on their business, we can add it to the knowledge base, and the AI will give a response based on information on the knowledge base. Okay, so then once giving an answer, we ask them, is there anything else we can help you with? If yes, they can go ahead and ask. If no, they just end the block, end the chat. Okay, so So next is if they click learn more on property. But before that, let's just see, this is a quick one. If they click search other properties, we'll just immediately send them to the obtain property details block, which is just this block over here at the beginning, which was asking them to provide more details on their property. Then with that being said, let's go to the actual learn more on property block. Okay, so if they click learn more on property, it will take us here, which is this block. So first it starts by obtaining the property ID. Okay, so if this flow has just come directly from the custom action block over here, okay, this is critical, just pay attention. If it's come from this custom action block, we obtain the property ID from the last event payload. Okay, you can see it here. So from the last event, so if the last event.payload.property ID is not empty, pass it in here, the property ID, assign it with that specific variable. Else means that we have come to this block from the other blocks of either to from the Google Maps or from the displaying the YouTube video URL and all that. So if that's the case, means the property ID is already saved up. As you can remember, before displaying the Google Maps, for example, or even before displaying the YouTube URL, before displaying the house tour video, remember here we normally obtain the property ID and save it accordingly. Okay, so that's already saved. So when you come here to learn more on property, ensure that's in place. Okay, so now we make an API call, which is a get request that wants to obtain details on that specific property. Okay, so for this I just get it from my Airtable documentation. If you go back to your Airtable documentation, you'll get it. And you go to properties table, then list records. Here you'll see, you'll just copy this URL as is, and this is what we'll use. Okay, then we filter by formula where the ZP ID equals the specific property ID we have saved up. Okay, then in the authorization, I'll cover up my Airtable token here, but on your side ensure you have that in place. Then in the parameters here, we pass in the specific fields that we want returned to the voice flow. Okay, so just as we were doing initially, fields, then the square brackets. So we want the city, we want the state, we want the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the price, the year built, the street address, the zip code, the home type, the lot area value, lot area units, living area value, living area units short, rent Z estimate, property tax rate, last sold price, the description, schools around there, the interior, and yeah, that's it. Okay, and this is all the details that we'll need, so that when the user asks specific details on the property, the AI can search through this JSON object that will be returned and give back a relevant response to the user. And you'll see how we do that. So capture the response. So response.records, specific record, since we are returning only one record, since when we make the API call, only one property will be able to match the property ID we have on file. Okay, so we'll just access that specific property, which will be on index 0, then access dot fields, and whatever details as returned, we save it to the variable property details. Okay, so we can do a test request. So send request here, then you enter variable here, value, then generate, and you can see it returns the specific response. It only returns one response as meant to, and you can see we can be able to access it. That's in index 0, and these are the fields that are returned. So you can see the fields that are returned there. These are the ones that we passed in the parameters place. Okay, so, and also one thing critical, when you create a parameter here, so for example I do fields and interior, let me just do a quick one. So here if I click add a parameter, scroll down till the bottom here, then I add a parameter, for example fields, then I pass in the value of the specific field, which is, let's say, state. Don't go ahead and just click send request. Ensure you click outside the box. This is to ensure that these parameters are saved. Then you go ahead and test a send request. Okay, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so if you just create a parameter and go ahead and just send request, it won't work because these parameters haven't been saved. So to save it, just click outside the box, outside the input field, and send the request. That's simple. Okay, I'm mentioning that because it actually disturbed me a lot. Okay, so in making the API call, we do have a JavaScript step here, which actually just stringifies, converts the specific JSON object returned from the API call, makes it into a string, so we can pass it to the AI. Okay, so once that's been stringified, we just send a text message asking them to ask whatever question they have on the property. Then we'll capture their response here. Okay, capture their response. Then whatever response they give, we pass in a set AI. The set AI will now generate the AI response accordingly. So we ask it, in the prompt, here's the user's last response, passing the last utterance. You have to determine whether they are asking a question on the specified property or whether they are interested in proceeding with the property. Okay, then we apply whatever the AI determines into the variable called isIntent. You go ahead and create that. Okay, and in the prompt settings, this is where the magic happens. Okay, so this is critical. Bring down the temperature, and we leave the tokens in default. And by the way, just to emphasize, we're using this set AI to classify their intention, because the other option is just putting in a button that asks them, ask more on the property, or I'm interested in the property. Okay, so after displaying the response to the user, they have asked something like, what's the property tax rate? The AI will give back a response of something like, the property tax rate is 1.5%. Then it will display some buttons of ask another question, or another button for I'm interested in this property. Okay, so if they click ask another question, it will go back to the beginning here, and it will ask them to give the question, and the AI will give back a response. But if they click I'm interested in the property, we'll go ahead to the flow where it asks them for their details, their name, their email, all that, and saves it to the database. But since the user experience is very tedious, and I was testing it out and I saw it was very tedious, after every response they have to click the button, ask another question, then they ask the question. The response is given, then they have to click another button, ask another question. So it's very tedious. So instead, we just have the AI classify their intention on either they're asking another question, or they're actually showing interest in proceeding with purchasing the property. Okay, so here's the system prompt. You're an expert at detecting the intent in the user's response. You're working for a real estate agency. You're clever enough to tell whether the user is asking a question or whether they are ready to proceed with a specific property. If you determine that the user is asking another question, return the word question. If you determine they're interested in the specified property, return the word interested. Correctness is a life or death situation. That's a trick. So always try be using such a statement. So we give it some examples, multi-short prompting. So if the user asks how much is the property, return question. They ask, are there any schools around the area? This is a question. When was the property built? This is a question. And so on and so forth. If they ask, I think I'm ready to buy the property, this is they're interested. If they say, how do I purchase the property? This shows they're interested. How do I proceed with the purchase? This shows they're interested, and so on and so forth. Note, you're only to return the specific word, either question or interested. Now take a deep breath and classify the user's response. So you pass in the last utterance and wait for the assistant to classify it. Okay, so we save that to the variable isIntent and proceed to an if statement down here that checks if isIntent contains the word question. If so, follow a specific path. And next one, if interested. So if isIntent contains interested, follow another path. And then finally we add a no match. Okay, so add a path here. So instead of minus on your side, you'll see plus. So click on plus. So to add a path for the else path. Okay, so if they're asking a question, it will follow this path. So which is a response AI, and the response AI takes in the prompt the last utterance, and the prompt settings is where the magic happens. Bring down the temperature to 0.15, and the system prompt is, you're a helpful, enthusiastic real estate assistant whose work is to provide relevant information or details on a specific property. You're also an expert at reading JavaScript and JSON variables, okay? So this is just to ensure that we don't need to come and format the JSON object and make it readable to the AI so that it can give relevant responses. You can just have the AI read the JSON response we obtained from the Airtable and have it give responses based on that JSON object, okay? So you will be provided with a JSON object containing all details in regard to a property. Your work is to sift through the object to find information that is relevant to the user's question. You then give back a relevant response in a conversational manner. Be brief and concise as possible. Caution it a bit. So note, you are all knowing in regard to details about this property. As long as they are available in the JSON object provided. Do not mention that you are getting the information from somewhere. So don't say things like based on the information provided or the provided information doesn't include. Say it as if everything is coming from your head. This is critical. Literally a matter of life and death. Do not dare state that you're getting the information from somewhere. In this I was seeing it was getting it wrong a bit, and I think I'll need to continue cautioning it a bit more to get it right, because when I was playing with it, I noticed it was still getting that mistake wrong. So anyways, you're only to provide factual information based on information available in the JSON object. Do not dare make up your own information in regard to the property. If the specific detail the user is asking is not available within the JSON object, then just say sorry, you don't have that information at the moment, but that you're happy to assist them with anything else. Here is the JSON object containing the property details, and we pass in the property details there. Okay? So here, if on classifying whatever the user responded is not either a question or an interest in the property, it goes to the else path, which asks them, sorry, I didn't get that, kindly state that again, and it will pass them on to the intent classifier. Otherwise, if they're interested, so we go to this block, which is collecting the buyer details, okay, so which is here. So awesome, I'll need a few details from you. First of all, what's your name? It captures their name, okay, over here. So capture their name and save it to a variable called buyer name. So in the actions, you'll add an action on your side, set variable, then the variable, you'll set it, on my side I've called it buyer name, so buyer name, then the buyer name, set it to the last utterance, okay? But since I've already done this, so I'll just minus that, I don't need that. Okay, then send it back. So next, what about your email address? Capture the email, and this email is an entity, so that if they say something like my email is mutiso@gmail.com, it will just extract mutiso@gmail.com, not the entire statement of my email is that, because that's not accurate. Okay, and for that, just click on here, ensure you create a new entity, and when you click create new entity, give it a name, then the data type ensure is set to email. Okay, so with that being said, and the action after that is setting a new variable. For the variable set, name of the variable buyer email, I've already created mine, but inside you'll create that, then you'll set it to the specific entity we created, which is called email. So you'll click on email over there, then press Control Enter. Okay, so that's to ensure it saves it up. If you don't do Control Enter and just click outside, sometimes VoiceFlow has some bugs and it won't save it. Okay, so do that, but since I've already added that, I don't need to do that. So on obtaining the email, that's in place. If they don't insert a correct email address, the AI will notice that and will go to a no match block over here. So on your side, ensure you click no match over here, then add a path. Okay, so here you'll see plus, so you click on plus. Then if they don't provide a correct email address, we'll ask them, sorry, I didn't get that, kindly provide your correct, not there, sorry, I didn't get that, kindly provide your correct email address. Then we'll send them back to the same block to ensure we capture the right email. So next we'll capture their phone number. So what about your phone number? This is a capture block and an entity. Okay, so you'll create a new entity, call it phone, give it a data type of type phone number. Then with that being said, you can go and set the buyer phone. So this is a variable I've created to that specific phone entity that we have created. Okay, with all that being said, we pass it now everything that has been obtained to a function that saves the details to our Airtable database. So for this, I'll just show you what the function does. So I'll go click on the function here. Okay, so first of all, create some input variables over here. So plus and add in these specific variables: name, email, phone, property ID, Airtable token. Okay, then paths, add these two paths for success if once the record has been created, and for error if the record hasn't been created. So then standard way of starting a voice from a function is you obtain all the variables that you'll be using within the function. So name, email, phone, property ID, and all that we get it from the arguments.input variables, which is the variables we've created over here. Then this is a try catch block. So first we want to make an API call to the Airtable database, and we just want to access the buyers table. Okay, and this is a post request that obtains does some authorization where we pass in the Airtable token and the content type over there, which is application/JSON. Then in the body we pass in this specific thing. Okay, so the body contains this, so fields and the specific fields that we want to create. Okay, so the name, the email, the phone number, and the property ID. Okay, then we get back the response, convert it to JSON, and if there's an actual response that's been returned, so this is not empty, it means it was a success. So we return the flow from here. So this is exiting from the function completely, and we do next to follow the path of success. Okay, else if this is empty, means there's not actually a record that was created, so there's an error. So follow the path of error. So we do a return to exit from the function, to pass the path of error, and display the following trace, which is a trace of type debug, and the message is error creating new buyer record, and we pass in the specific error message. Okay, so same case over here. So if there's any error within the function, it will be caught, and we return for it to pass through the path of error, and the trace, it will return a trace of type debug, and the message will be error creating new buyer record. And this trace of type debug is, we remember when you run the chatbot within your voice flow over here, and your debug is set to true, there are normally some messages that appear, small messages over there. So this will help you in debugging. Okay, so go back to the workflow. So if it's a success, it moves on to this place. So awesome, kindly await, one of our agents will be in touch with you soon. Is there anything else I can help you with? If yes, we ask them to go ahead, and whatever they ask, we pass into the intent classifier. If no, just tell them, okay, if you need any further assistance, I'm always here for you. Then you end the chat. Okay, so, and you can see here in this statement, I generate 3 variations of that. Okay, then save it up. So what's remaining now is for selling the property. Okay, so if you go to the selling property flow, it's actually the easiest one, so I'll quickly just skim through it. So awesome, we can definitely help you get the best price for your property. This is a text block, and I generated 3 variations of that, and you can move on. So we first ask for their address and capture that through a capture block, which is over here. So capture block, then set whatever they respond with to a variable called seller address. Okay, then once that's in place, on your side, ensure you create that variable. All this we're just doing through a set variable block, which is this. Okay, then create great, and how much were you looking to sell the property for? So we capture whatever they say and save it to a variable called seller price. Okay, so you can see seller price there. Then next, oh, that's a great price range, we can definitely get a buyer with that. Then we generate 3 variations with that. Okay, and what's your timeline for selling the home? Capture whatever they say, so let's say 3 months, 4 months, whatever. Save it to a variable called seller timeline. Okay, then you say thanks for the information. Now kindly provide their name. So obtain that, save it to a variable called seller name. What about your email address? Capture the email, save it to a variable called seller email. Okay. Then if they put in a wrong email address, that's not an actual legit email, we tell them to, sorry, kindly enter your correct email address, because this is an entity. Okay, this is a good thing of working with entities. Okay, so the entity will be able to capture that. Okay, then once capturing the seller email, we ask for their phone number. Same case as before, this is an entity, to obtain the phone number, so that if they say something like my number is 0759, it just takes the 0759 part and discards the rest. Okay, then if they enter a wrong phone number, we ask them to enter the correct number. Otherwise, we forward to the function which is now saving the seller details, which is just similar to the function of saving the buyer details, but in this case we have some difference. So let's go to the function. The input variables that we need is the Airtable token. Okay, property timeline, property price, property address, phone, email, name. And if you go to our Airtable here in the sellers table, you can see these are the exact fields that we need: name, email, phone, property address, property price, property timeline. Okay, and just to be clear, if you go back to your workflow, in the function over here is where you'll pass in the actual details. So ensure you pass in your Airtable token, paste it in there. Okay, then pass in these specific variables, so the seller timeline, seller price, seller address, seller phone, accordingly. Same to the buyer details function. So I remember I forgot to mention that, but if you go back here to the function, so buy property, in this function for saving the details of the buyer, I ensure I pass in the Airtable token, then the property ID, then the buyer phone, then the buyer email, buyer name. All these variables I've already created and have values. Okay, so going back to the function of seller details, so on obtaining the specific variables, which you have ensured on your side that you've created them here on input variables, so you do plus, then put in the name of the variable accordingly. Okay, so I've added them there. Okay, then we do an API call to Airtable accordingly. So on your side, you can just copy the URL that we used for buyers, for calling the buyers table, but instead changes to sellers. Okay, then passing the Airtable token in the authorization, then content type application JSON, then in the body it's just like the buyer example, but now we pass in the different fields, which is name, email, phone, property address, property price, property timeline. Convert it to JSON. So I won't go through this, it's just the same thing as the buyer function. Okay, and yeah, that's it. So if you run the chatbot, so I go to the workflow, then I click start here, so I can be like, I want to buy a property. Jumps to the buy property workflow. So let's say I'm looking for so you can see it there, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Oh, it has several of them, so you can skim through them and see. So if I want to view this one on Zillow and click on that, just to be clear, we can just confirm that is accurate. So you can see 2920 US route. Let's see if that's correct. You can see, yeah, that's the exact property. And you can view the house tour video. Okay, so you can click on that and view the actual video. Okay, with that being said, and also notice here, these are the debug messages I was saying. So when we say trace of type debug from the function step, these are the debug messages. Okay, so that you can be able to use that if there's any errors, you're able to debug them before you take the chatbot live. Okay, so also if I just want to learn more on this property, I can just click learn more on the property. I'll quickly ask it some questions. So let's say See, the price is 4 or 7,500, and just to confirm that's accurate, you can see here that's the exact price over here for 7,500. You can continue asking it more questions. Let's even try asking it. I'm not sure this is in the Airtable database, but let's see. Yes, there are schools in the area, all that. So you can continue playing with it. So let's say if I'm interested, how do I purchase? How do I proceed making the purchase? Okay. There you go. So it will go ahead and ask my details and save it accordingly to the Airtable database. Okay. So anyways, that's it from me. If you need such a system built for you, you'll find a link in the description where you can visit our website and book in a meeting with our team. We'll be excited to implement the same for your company. Also, if you need access to the actual resources of this tutorial, link will be in the description. I provide the actual template and everything you require. Anyways, till next time, stay serving. Peace.